something is starting to shift in the global economy. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but in a way that is much more dangerous, because it's happening quietly, and it's happening in a place most people don't think about every day: oil. For decades, oil has been the foundation of modern life. It powers the cars we drive, the planes we fly, the goods we consume, and the entire system of global trade. And yet, most people assume it's stable, always available, always flowing, always there. But that assumption is beginning to break. Because behind the scenes, the system that keeps oil moving across the world is under pressure. And if that pressure continues to build, we are not just looking at higher prices. We are looking at something much bigger: a shift in the balance of power, a disruption in global stability, and potentially the beginning of a new oil crisis. Part 1. The illusion of stability. For a long time, the global oil system has appeared stable. Oil flows from producers to consumers. Prices rise and fall, but within a predictable range. Markets adjust, and the system continues. But this stability is not natural. It is engineered. It depends on cooperation between countries, secure transport routes, political agreements, and a shared interest in avoiding disruption. In other words, the system works because everyone agrees to keep it working. But that agreement is fragile, because not all countries have the same goals. Some want higher prices. Some want more control. Some want influence. And some are willing to use oil as leverage. That's where the illusion begins to crack. Because once oil becomes a tool of power, it stops being just an economic resource and becomes something much more dangerous. Part 2. Why demand is still rising. There's a common belief that the world is moving away from oil. Electric cars, renewable energy, climate policies. All of it suggests that oil is becoming less important. But that's only part of the story, because while some countries are reducing dependence, others are increasing it. Think about fast-growing economies, countries like India, China, Indonesia, Vietnam. These countries are industrializing rapidly, and industrialization requires energy, a lot of it. Factories, transport networks, urban development, all of it runs on oil. So even as Europe talks about reducing consumption, global demand continues to rise. And that creates a contradiction. The world wants less oil, but still needs more of it. And that imbalance puts pressure on supply. Part 3. The bottlenecks that control everything. Oil doesn't just appear where it's needed. It has to move across oceans, through pipelines, across borders. And in that journey, there are critical choke points, places where massive amounts of oil pass through very narrow routes. The most important of these is the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway connects the Persian Gulf to the open ocean, and through it flows nearly 1/5 of the world's oil supply. That means, if something happens here, the entire global market reacts. Prices spike, supply tightens, markets panic. And here's the problem. This route is located in one of the most politically sensitive regions in the world, which means it is never truly secure. Part 4. The return of geopolitical risk. For years, global markets became comfortable. Conflicts existed, but were contained. Supply disruptions happened, but were temporary. But now, that comfort is fading, because geopolitical risk is returning. Tensions are rising in key regions. Conflicts are no longer isolated. They are interconnected. And oil sits at the center of all of it. Because Wherever there is conflict in energy-rich regions, there is risk to supply. And even if supply is not immediately cut, the perception of risk is enough. Markets react to fear faster than reality. And that's what we're seeing now. A shift from stability to uncertainty. Part 5. Why this time is different. We've had oil shocks before, the 1970s, the Gulf Wars, various regional crises. But this time feels different because the global system is more interconnected than ever. Supply chains are tighter. Economies are more dependent on continuous flow, and markets react instantly. There is less room for disruption and less time to adjust. At the same time, the world is in transition, moving toward new energy systems, but not fully there yet, which creates a dangerous gap. We are leaving the old system before the new one is ready, and that makes the current system more fragile, not less. Part 6. The cascade effect. When oil prices rise, the impact doesn't stay in the energy sector, it spreads. Fuel becomes more expensive, transport costs increase, goods become more expensive to produce, and that leads to inflation, which affects food prices, everyday goods, cost of living. Suddenly, something that started as an energy issue becomes an economic issue, then a political issue, then a social issue. That's how oil crises work, not as isolated events, but as chain reactions. Part 7. Why no one is prepared. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The world talks about energy transition, but it is not ready for disruption. Renewables are growing, but not consistent. Electric vehicles are expanding, but not dominant. Infrastructure is incomplete, which means oil still carries the system. And if that system is disrupted, there is no immediate backup, no quick replacement, no easy solution. So when we say, the oil crisis has started, we don't mean a sudden collapse, we mean something more subtle, a system under pressure, a system beginning to shift, and a world that is not fully prepared for what happens next. The question is not whether oil will remain important. It will. The real question is, who controls it? Who protects it? And what happens when that control is challenged? Because that control comes down to a few critical places. Small on a map, but essential to the entire global system. In the next video, we look at the most important one, the Strait of Hormuz. And if you found this useful, leave a like, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments. See you in the next one.